Alright, so I would like to present to you the 5 themes of geography PowerPoint we discussed in class as promised. Let's talk. We're going to get through this pretty quick, and because I'm not one to like to waste time. Okay, so we're looking at the 5 themes of geography. We talked about location, place, human environment interaction, movement, and regions. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at each one of these individually. We're going to talk a little bit about what they actually are, because after all, by theme, we already mentioned that a theme is kind of like a central, reoccurring, underlying idea that something always returns to. You look at the themes of the movie Titanic, and you've got the idea that the ship is going to sink, and then there is going to be some kind of a love story. So these are themes of the movie Titanic. In the same way that everything that happens in that movie returns to those 2 central ideas, so will everything in geography return to these 5 central ideas, the 5 themes. So let's take a look. Location. Anytime that geographers are going to study location, they ask themselves, where are we, or where is it at? Or so on and so forth. Any variation of that question. Where is it? They probably wouldn't end that question with a preposition, but nonetheless, you've got 2 different ways of explaining where something is from a geographic standpoint. And one of those that we tend to do, well, we got 2 ways we tend to do it, and one of them is absolute location, where you use latitude and longitude coordinates to understand and to explain where something is. Latitude and longitude tell you where something is on the globe using a grid system. So you can also use a street address to determine local location. But how many people are going to say, I need to know how to get to McDonald's? What's the address to McDonald's? Nobody says that unless we have a GPS we're going to use, which would actually use the absolute location. But most people could say, well, if you're trying to get to McDonald's from Midland Valley High School, you got to turn left on Mustang Drive, turn left onto Duncan, turn right on Naked Augusta Highway, and then drive until you see Bilo, and right there you're going to see McDonald's. It's going to be on the left. You just make a turn right there. This is relative location, described by landmarks, how far away something is in terms of time, and also the direction it takes you to get there. When you look at place, geographers are going to ask the question, what is it like there? Or what kind of place is it? What are the characteristics that define the location? You got human characteristics. What are our main languages, customs, and beliefs? There you have a couple of people, different types of ethnicity, different countries. And obviously, if you went somewhere and you saw a mosque, you would recognize that there is at least some degree of an Islamic presence, or maybe you're in a city if you're in the West, or maybe you're in a Middle Eastern country or a place where there's a lot of Muslims. Human characteristics can include also how many people live, work, and visit a place. Okay, and so population density could be, if you live in a place that has a large population, does that not describe what kind of place it is? Absolutely. There's other pictures. You've also got physical characteristics we are concerned with in geography. Landforms, mountains, rivers, etc. All the obvious stuff we talk about. I have, relative to Minnesota, I received some kind of a text message talking about how it showed a JPEG that had a little story about what it's like to be Minnesotan. And it talks about how, the snow and how you feel if you're going to die, it's so cold. Yeah, I think it might be a little bit of an exaggeration, but I can tell you, being someone that's native to South Carolina, I don't have any idea what it's like to really be in real snow that's, as deep as your waist or whatever it is that they always go on about. Having to wear a coat in order to go outside for fear that you might die. Things like this. Having to scrape your windshield when you go to the store and you come back out and you got ice all over your windshield. That's the kind of snow and ice I couldn't even fathom, because what's it like in South Carolina? Well, it ain't like that. Okay? There are some other pictures that show physical characteristics. Third, we're looking at human environment interaction, and how you're sitting in Sunday school and you're being the good, attentive Sunday school, kid, and the answer is always Jesus. Well, in the same way, human environment interaction has a very obvious definition. It how do humans and the environment interact with or affect each other? And it does. We affect the earth. We affect the environment we live in. The environment also kind of affects the way we are. Obviously, like I said, living in South Carolina, not having to deal with snow, I'm not going to be buying stuff at Academy that deals with having to protect myself against snow. And if I go to Cabela's in Minnesota, where I am going to see things that people really need to put massive insulating suits on so they can just keep warm. That's all great. We depend on the environment for whatever we need from it. People depend on Tennessee River and water for transportation. If you look at the early civilizations we discussed in world history, the ancient hearths of civilization as we know it, well, they depended on the Tigris and Euphrates in Mesopotamia for these various same reasons. They used it for irrigation. They used it for transportation and for trade. What happened when that river flooded? When it produced too much water or gave it too much water, didn't give them enough water, there's going to be catastrophe and people are going to die and starve and all this, that, and the other. Not only do we depend on the environment for certain things, we modify it to meet our needs. More so now than ever. We have the ability to provide ourselves with some jacked up irrigation using dams. We can help give more people clean water than ever before. Why about the South? It's hot as anything down here, and yet we can live here. And we have these luxury resorts and stuff like this because of air conditioning, one of the biggest inventions and biggest factors for improving the southern economy. Heating. We adapt to the environment. We adapt to the environment by wearing clothing suitable for summer and this, that, and the other. How many people, if it's going to rain outside, it's currently raining right now as I make this video. If I went outside, I'd probably bring an umbrella or at least plan on getting rained on. Maybe I'd wear a hat or something. If I'm going to go run outside in the sun, I'm going to wear a hat to keep my forehead from getting sunburned. Okay? Movement talks about how people, good, and ideas move from one place to another. How do people, goods, and ideas move from place to place? Today, human movement has never been easier. If we wanted to go on some kind of a mission project or some kind of humanitarian project to Africa to help out, and we decide abruptly we want to be there in a couple of days, well, with enough money, we can do that. It's called an airplane. And even let's look at vacation. So we might plan a year ahead, but a year in advance. But if you want to go to the Caribbean islands or wherever, you plan on doing it using a cruise or using an airline or whatever it is. We can get places that are really far away with relative ease and very little effort these days compared to how it used to be. You've also got trains and cars and trucks, and between all these different methods, it's also really easy to see the exchange of goods from place to place. I mean, how many people now go to the store during Christmas holidays? I like to go and see the hustle and bustle, but I sure don't like to go and buy stuff. I get on Amazon. They have that Super Savers free shipping stuff going on, and I just get everything delivered to me. I might have to wait 20 days for some of the things if it's coming from another country, but or at least wherever it's coming from. Sometimes it takes a lot longer with eBay and with Amazon, but nonetheless, I don't have to actually even do anything other than just click on my computer a little bit. I think that's pretty dandy. Information movement, phones and computer. It says email on my PowerPoint here, but we all know that we're not using email. I mean, if you're under 20 years old, you probably haven't sent an email in 5 or 6 years, only because you had to then. You use Twitter, you use Facebook, you use YouTube, or this, that, and the other, all sorts of other types of social media out there that is a better example of the exchange of ideas or information. Idea movement, they're also talking about fads moving from place to place through advertisement or YouTube is another big factor when it comes to young people, even people my age and younger, anywhere from probably about 35 to teenagers. I would say a lot of them are increasingly moving towards internet for the exchange of ideas, and TV is obviously and radio are still the biggest things, but things like magazines now even are moving towards being digital format and being used on the internet or on tablets or whatever it is we're doing. And then finally, we're looking at regions. When you study region in geography, you're looking at how regions are similar to and different from other places. So you're comparing places using a set number of characteristics that kind of defines the region, okay? Several different types of regions we can look at, and they are as you see. Formal regions are ones that you look at a map, you look on the ground, you look wherever it is, and it's pretty clear that you're in a region based on the characteristics. Regions defined by governmental or administrative boundaries, like a state, like a country, like a city, like a county. Any of those things would be an example. Also, stuff like the Rocky Mountains. You know when you're in the mountains. You can tell when you're in the mountains and when you leave the mountains, right? Those are examples of formal regions. You can see them on a map, and that's basically what you're going to get when you go there. Functional regions, also known as nodal regions, are those defined by a particular function or service that are able to be provided within a set area. Once you leave the area, it starts to kind of taper out, such as when you're listening to a radio station and you move into the area where that radio station can no longer broadcast because it comes out. You know what I'm saying? That's a functional region. Newspapers for Columbia aren't going to be cool in Charlotte, North Carolina, because nobody wants to know what's going on locally in Columbia. That's another example of a functional region. Vernacular regions are regions that are defined by people's perception, such as if you go on a Google search for the American South and do images, you're going to see a bunch of different ideas about what the American South is. I personally think the American South is anywhere you can get sweet tea. Alright? So there's a point where you can't get sweet tea anymore the further north you go. And also if you go to Florida, there's a lot of places you can't get sweet tea, so I wouldn't consider Florida to be south. Nonetheless, people's perceptions. I know that here at Midland Valley, you've got the Valley region, and nobody really knows exactly what it is. They say 421. Some people say Graniteville. And how do you know when you leave the valley and go into North Aiken, or how do you know when you leave the valley and start going towards Augusta? I mean, we all kind of know where it is, but we might not know exactly what the definition of that is. We might not be able to identify the boundary of that area. Let's see. 3 different types of regions. Now, here's some a neat little way of remembering the 5 themes. If you can't remember what they are, just ask Mr. Help. Okay? Whoever came up with this PowerPoint is a genius for this little acronym, but Mr. Help. And there it is. Movement, regions, human environment interaction. You gotta remember that HE is both H and E stands for human environment, location, and place. So if you need help remembering it, that's how you do it right there. And I've seen that work for a lot of different people. There's an assignment that we did not do in class. However, in the past we've done it. Just whatever I decide to tell you in class, that's what I would have you guys do. If you're in doubt, do the assignment. But nonetheless, I hope my PowerPoint presentation has been a help for you. I hope that you fully and better understand the 5 themes of geography, and good luck to you on come test time.